Welcome back, Warhammer fans. Welcome back to Fixit TV. And today we have a video for you about Return of Reckoning. Warhammer Online Return of Reckoning, the private server. They just released a video called Developers Update August 2023. And they talk about, what they've been doing for the last couple of months, what are the future plans, why they made some changes, explaining a few things, updating the entire community. So we're going to go through that video part by part, and we're going to see what they talked about, try and analyze it a little bit, and see if we can make heads and tails of what's going on and what will be happening in the future. As some of you might be aware about this new ability system, it's something that's been talked about from the developers and the community for a very long time. This new ability system that's going to change the game, is going to change how we play, how things are done, how fast things are implemented into the game. So in this video, they talk a little bit more about this ability system, which they will be bringing online in the near future. Now, they didn't specify exactly what that is, but from what I've managed to acquire it's going to be months, not years. However, the problem with this new system is that the current data are unusable on the new system. So at this point, they are focusing on releasing a ready system. So when it comes online, we won't have a lot of problems, a lot of bugs, and so on and so forth. But at this point that they release this video, they need to do a lot of testing to the ability system as a whole. And they also need to do a lot of testing with the testers on the test server. The end goal of all this project at this point is to have faster changes, more bug fixes, more frequent balance changes, and more reliable abilities. Keep in mind, this is not active yet. And the one thing I want to keep here before we move on is the fact that the current data, all the skills on Return of Reckoning, all the things they implemented over the last years, they're unusable to some degree, not everything, on the new system. Now, this new ability system also has the ability to generate faster content for us in many different levels. And that means that they don't have to train people as much as they did before. They can move on forward and spend time on a lot of things because it's going to cut the time in half. The other reason is that so far they have to maintain two systems, the core systems, which is the game we play now, and work on the new ability system. So everything takes twice as much time. Now, when this new ability system comes online, theoretically things will start moving a lot faster. At least we hope they will. Now, alongside this ability system, they also have now an automated ability system, which allows them to test the skills of the players, the NPCs, and make sure that they have no problems, that they actually work, they activate properly. And they showed us a little video, which you can see on the top left, of how these things work. Now, hopefully this new system will produce a bug-free experience, smoother content releases, and prevent any regression, meaning, when they put something out there, it's going to be out there and is not going to revert it, nerfed, and all this. It will come out ready to use, let's put it this way. Now, when this new ability system comes online, there's a few things we should expect or not expect. One of the things we will not be expecting is that defensive stats is going to stay the same. They said on initial release, there will be no change on the defensive stats. But that doesn't mean they won't do any changes a bit further down. So I'm putting a big question mark myself there and wait and see if they're going to do something even on the initial release. Regarding offensive stats, they're going to try and unify all armor penetration, buff, and tactics to work the same in an additive fashion. Because before that, everything was half of them multiplicable and the other half were additive. And it was creating a bit of confusion to the player base of how this works and how that works. And also, it was basically a mess. Now, when the ability system comes online, there will be balance changes coming. But when? This is the main question everybody's asking. When are the changes coming? Where is my character going to be fixed? When? They didn't say. I don't think they ever said any announcements. The only thing we managed to get is that they're trying to focus on the bugs post-release. So when it comes out, we won't have a lot of problems, therefore a lot less complaints, and that any balance changes on the classes is going to happen 1 to 2 months after the official release of the system, which we don't know. But like I said, they said it's going to be months, not years. And also in the near future, whatever that means, there will be a public test server release. So everybody, hopefully everybody, because it didn't mention anything about forms, registrations, anything like that, a public test server in the future that people can jump in and do some testing, see the new changes, maybe give feedback. So when they do get transferred to the live server, hopefully everything will work out well. Well, after they talked about all these general things, how the ability system is going to work, how the ability system is going to help us to move forward in the future, and how this ability system is so wonderful and everything, they went forward and said a few of the changes we should be expecting to see as soon as the system is online. And one of them is the uniformity among tanks. They're gonna try and make a uniform single target pan ability while keeping each tank unique. Honestly, I have no idea what that means, because every tank has a punt. Every tank is unique on the pan aspect. Some of them push them straight, some have more lobby ones, some are longer ones like the Blackguard, sacrificing, attacking, and so on and so forth. But I'll wait and see what that exactly means. Also, the core mechanics of leveling characters, their skills they will be getting those a lot earlier as they go, which I believe is going to help them to survive when they hit the tier 4 level. However, there was no mention about this and the removal of bolster. So now we're probably going to have characters who are bolstered. We all know how bolster works and what it does, with more skills, more crowd control. So they might be even more powerful than before. I'm hoping not. Once I asked about this at the beginning, when they said we have this new ability system and I'm going to get the skills faster, and they said this will not be a problem. So I'm leaving that there, a question mark, to see if that's going to be a problem or not. Furthermore, they said they're going to focus a little bit on working on the single target buffs and debuffs for some classes, because they feel they are underutilized and not performing very well, and they want to bring them to the same level as their AoE counterparts. Now, those are only a few of the changes. There's no mention about character changes, but let's hope so. Now, they moved on and talk about the changes they did recently on the provisional patch notes and the reasoning behind some of them, which we're going to see now, and I'll try and explain to the best of my ability. However, before we move on to this section of the video, I want to remind you of one thing. The new ability system that they're going to use to balance everything and do everything through that system, they're using as base the 148 official patch. This means that a lot of the things they've done so far, they've been reverting back there. Not everything, but some of the things. This is one of the main reasons why the provisional patch kind of nerfed everything, because they removed a lot of the ROR things they've done so far because they're not compatible. They don't work on the new system. You need to keep that in mind in order to understand why some of the things are happening. On top of that, I want you to remember that there is no guarantee that once start working, they will put those changes back and the character will feel exactly the same as it does today. Well, before the provisional patch, that is. Or we don't know if it's going to have new abilities. We don't know if anything's going to change, like a skill you already have is doing 1,000 damage. It's going to do the same or not. It's going to work the same or not. A few things might be changing, and I feel that is important to keep it in your mind. Now, the reasoning behind the class changes on the engineer and the magus. They had a lot of problems with the coding regarding the turrets and everything, and it's just that the RR changes they did doesn't go along with the mythic system, and in order to make them work so far, they had to play around, hack around, alter a few things. So that's why they've been reverted, and now they have the base on 148, so when the ability system comes online, they'll start fixing that. On the White Lion, they removed the M2 cleave. I have no idea why they did that, but apparently there is several reasons which contributed in that decision, and they are no distinctive visual effects, which nobody cares, no unique animation that nobody cares, and no exclusive icon, which nobody cares, but apparently will take a lot of resources to get those things fixed. Personally, I'm looking at the gameplay because we know the animation, not every animation works in the game. Now, removing an M2 ability from a class because it doesn't have visual effects, good animation, exclusive icon, I think doesn't justify removing it, and therefore nerfing a class. Any removal for me is a nerf, and they're gonna buff the flying axe instead to try and improve that class. Okay, their game. Moving on to the Marauder though. The Marauder was reverted because they're changing the way they do balancing. Before, for some classes, and especially the Marauder, has been balanced by adding base stats to the character. So the last patch I remember, the Marauder, they added plus 5% on the base stats, so they brought everything up. This is not a viable system. I don't know why they did it back in the day, but it brings a lot of imbalances because it amplifies a lot of the stats, a lot of the things happening to the character, and it was creating more problems than it was actually solving, and especially imbalances, making problems with tooltips where the skill set it does X damage, it was doing a different number because of the buff on the stats. Now for the Archmage and the Shaman, I'm sorry, the only thing I understood is that they simply don't work with the new system and they move some of the skills back and they're looking for alternatives and other ways to make the skill work better. So I'm going to leave it on that because I don't play this class as much. I don't know. Now, Squig Herder is one of the most controversial classes regarding the balance that they did over the years in many aspects, from the melee Squig, the range Squig, mobility, damage, new skills, everything. Is the one that's been mostly overhauled, is the one that had the most changes regarding RR. So instead of reverting the whole thing to 148, they kept some of the RR changes and some of the 148. So this is the only class that they have half a half, let's say, or in that kind of ratio, changes stayed there. Now, that's all they said about the classes, and the reason behind that, if they nerfed other classes and don't remember, probably it's a similar reasoning. I don't agree with all the reasons, but I tell you what the bottom line I see here is. The bottom line is we have a ability system which is going to come online in 6 to 9 months, my personal estimate, and then we have to add another 2 to 3 months before they start doing balancing. So we're looking about a year, give or take, delays, problems, in a year, which means that for the next year, the classes are going to stay exactly as they are, and some of them are seriously broken to the point that they're unplayable. So be patient. We're just waiting for the new ability system. Things may not be looking so good so far, but the future seems bright, and that is due to the additional future projects they're working on. One of them is a scenario queue rewrite, which is meant to solve all the complicated problems of the old system, and this old system, the one we have now, has a lot of problems. So the new system should, in theory, when it is finished and when it's released, reduce the downtimes for fixes, hotfixes, and updates without the need to turn the server off. Furthermore, it's going to be focusing a lot and prioritizing on balance the scenario team formation, so we get the 2-2-2 setup as much as possible depending on the population. Also, they're going to be implementing safeguards so pre-mates don't end up with pugs, and even more safeguards implemented into the new system so people won't bypass that in order to get their little groups in with the pugs. Last, this system will be expanding the matchmaking capabilities the longer you are in queue. So if somebody has been in the queue for 10 minutes, he's going to get a priority to get a scenario than somebody that just queued. So because that doesn't work like that right now. Furthermore, we have more things changing on the scenario front, and that is a new scenario which is on the way. And it's called the Underway. It's meant to be an underground single lane push scenario where the mechanisms of it, like all the mechanisms, the details are still being worked out. But the idea is that you have one spawn point on one end of the corridor, another spawn point on the other end of the corridor. You rush in the middle and you try and push your enemy, order, destro, order, to the spawn point to win. This new scenario, I'm afraid, because we did see a little bit of the footage and you can see some as well. It's very narrow, is indoors, and it's gonna be a melee based scenario. Let's see how that's going to play out. Usually they tend to create a lot of frustration. Nevertheless, along with the new scenario, when it comes out, they're also going to be redoing all the spawn points in the current scenarios, making them not a circle with one exit spawn point, but they're going to add multiple exit points, so when you are spawn camp, you'll have more than one exit to go out and try and break the siege. Since we are on the topic of instance PvP, let's see a little bit the changes are coming up for the city sieges. First of all, progression no longer carries out on the next stage. Secondly, most important for me is reshuffling process, which they're going to introduce. So after each stage, there will be dynamic matchups. This means that if Order wins City 1 Stage 1 and Destro wins City 2 Stage 1, the two winning warbands from both realms will be meeting each other on a new instance on Stage 2, and the two losing warbands, they'll meet themselves on a new instance on Stage 2. This will provide some sort of a skill leveling. So if a warband wins on one instance, it will go and play with the winning warband on another instance and the losing one with the other one. So this might bring a new fresh air to the city sieges and balance out the whole stomping that's been happening for a while now. On top of that, there will be a new system implementing which is going to help backfill players in the city sieges a lot better. So when somebody quits, it will put some people in there quickly. Hopefully the right class as well, so we don't end up having 24 DPS or 22 DPS, one tank and one healer, as it has happened before. Now, going into the RVR, they didn't want to go in a lot of details on this specific topic. They do have plans for changing and bringing new things regarding the RVR, from sieging to open RVR and so on and so forth. However, they did say that the current plans are in the infancy stage, so I wouldn't expect anything anywhere sooner than a year and a half myself. Also, they said, and I'm quoting this, changes in the RVR are coming, so don't worry. Sorry, but when somebody tells me not to worry, I get more worried because I don't know, I don't get really reassured like that. Anyways, in the short term, there are going to be some small tweaks, whatever that means. They were really cryptic. They didn't give a lot of information on this topic. However, for those that do enjoy PvE and that do dungeons and other activities of such in the game, they are bringing out rebalancing to the dungeons. They're going to try and fix them with a new ability system. They said it's a lot easier to do now. They're going to be fixing broken mechanism with the new ability system. Also, they're going to be adding new abilities to monster and bosses. I don't know if they're going to add new mechanics to the bosses, but I suppose with the new abilities, new mechanics will be implemented as well. Also, changes on this topic, the dungeons, will be happening in the months following the ability system, which, I remind you, it's an unknown time before that is released, so they can start doing the changes. But also reminding you, the set is going to be months, no years. My personal estimate is 9 to 10 months before it is released, and then add as many months for the PvE, for the PvP, for the RVR stuff to be implemented. And also the information they're going to get from doing the rebalancing on the dungeons, the changes to the abilities of the bosses, the monsters, and introduction of new mechanics and broken things will help them to build a better Lost Vale in the near future. Finally, I don't know how many of you are excited about this, Cosmetic Pets are coming back, and they're only going to be cosmetics. They're not going to have any stats on them, any buffs on them, so you don't have to worry about which one to pick. They will be automatically appear once you leave RVR, you come out of combat, and they will be found in the future at some point as parts of events or dungeons. I did ask if they're going to be permanent or limited, 30 days a week, 60 days, as we have some mounts and other pets at the moment, and it's still unknown, because I said we don't know how we're going to do this, like if they're going to be permanent or not. We're going to have to wait and see. We have other things to deal right now. Finally, I think that was part of the last part of the whole video they showed us, is a new terrain editor is ready, which means they can start altering areas, fixing problems, generate their own content, which is encouraging news for the future. Also, they are working, and I think they might be finishing that one, a new launcher for better patch process, faster downloads, and of course they just did a new backtracker, so no more GitHub, no more making accounts or anything like that. Now you can go on the new backtracker. It's already been linked on the forum page of Return of Reckoning, and you can log in with your game credentials, just one click and you're in. And it will be easier for them to keep track of the bugs, easier for the player base to report bugs, and hopefully to help the whole process move forward and solve a lot more problems a lot faster, and improve the gameplay, improve the player experience, and everybody be a little bit happier and doing things. Now that we covered all the topics that they talked about, I think it's time to go and do a little bit of a summary and some final thoughts. As everything in life, also here we have some negatives and some positives from this developer update on Return of Reckoning. Probably will find some things which are on both columns, because they're both a negative and a positive at the same time. So the negatives, and the main one is there's no estimated time of arrival for the new ability system. So we don't know how long we're going to have to wait. Now, they did say months over years, but 2 months to 9 months or 10 months is a big difference. Also, somebody could mean 14 months. Anyways, I know it's more than a year, and they said not a year, but I'm just saying. Loads of testing to come. It's negative. We don't know when it's coming, and even if it does, we don't know if the testing is going to be finished, if it's going to be ongoing testing while it's on there, and maybe that will delay things. No ETA on the public server in the future. People want to jump in right now and see the new things, see what to expect, if it's worth the time to stay and play, what should they do. They don't know what's happening. Broken classes until the new system is implemented. Right now, a lot of classes don't feel ROR. A lot of the classes don't feel good to play. A lot of the classes are neglected. A lot of the classes don't perform well on solo, on 6-man, on warbands. One of those, all of them, none of them, they're not welcomed in gameplay styles in the game, and that creates a lot of frustration. Unbalanced classes until then, despite being broken, they're also unbalanced at the same time between them. I'm not sure if reverting most classes to 148, another negative, to some of them in half and half. How does that feel as a character? Because I haven't played. Maybe it doesn't feel like the RR the people know. It's a different game and leaves a little bit of a bitter or bad taste to the mouth. Also, there is no new direction, in my opinion, to scenarios. It's still a blob melee based scenario, the new one. So I don't see something different. Yes, maybe a new shell, but it's the same thing inside. I don't like that. I'm not looking forward to the same thing again. Move, get a flag, move to the next one, blobbing, staying, you know, all that kind of thing. I think it's a negative thing to have that type of scenario. And finally, from this video, the RVR changes are too far, in my opinion, which is also a negative. People already feel the game is stagnant. They don't have things to do. They're not happy with the progression of the campaign. They're not happy with the city sieges. And yes, changes are happening, but they are far, far away because, as stated, their interest right now is to finish the ability system, is to do the testing, is to open the public server. Then they're going to start working on the classes, and then maybe they do some PvE stuff, and then we'll go to the RVR. Maybe, I don't know, but it's still, we have a very, very, very long way until all that happens. Now, on the positive side, which we should be looking at, is that there is a new ability system which is going to make things move faster once they start. So it's about being patient until they actually start, which is going to have less bugs and create a better experience. Also very positive. The fact that we have a public test server is a very, very positive. People will be able to see changes in advance, give the feedback. So maybe alter the things that already been programmed and have a much better result on the live server when they are actually officially released. And this is one of the things that both negative and positive. It's positive to have it for people to test it, but it's negative we don't know when that's coming out because people really want to get into it and help things to move forward. Now, having a new scenario queuing system is also amazing, especially if it's going to really implement better balance and help people not meet pre-mades versus pugs. Another one's on both lists, a new scenario. It's exciting to have a new scenario. It's exciting to have something that these guys are creating themselves, but we have to see the mechanics and how things are going to work so it's fair for all classes. I'm not talking about Realms, Order, and Destra, all classes. We cannot have scenarios that really favor melee over ranged or the other way around. There has to be scenarios and terrain for them to work in harmony and everybody can enjoy the gameplay. Also, positive, RVR changes are coming, don't worry, they said. But when? People already bored, you know? Better dungeon overall, definitely positive for those that like the PV, and I know quite a few people that do. Cosmetic Pets, also positive. Fashion Hammer is real. Warhammer is part of Warhammer, and Cosmetic Pets fall in that category. Nice. If also they are permanent, and the reason why they should be permanent along with everything else, and I know the resources are limited, but with the new tools, probably they can make new horses, new pets, and so on and so forth. They should be permanent, in my opinion, because when somebody works their asses off to finish a campaign, to finish a PQ, to finish a quest, to finish something, they need to keep the reward. Nobody likes to work for temporary. Imagine if somebody said, you work for 8 hours, here's your salary, 2 days later, you take it back because, you know, it was meant to be for 2 days, you didn't spend it, it's hours now, kind of thing. Also, technical improvements, new launcher, new faster downloads, faster things, they're also very positive. So I think we got more positives to look forward than negatives overall, but it depends on what perspective you're looking at it. If you're looking from the perspective of the player, you don't know when things are happening, you just know things are happening and you don't know exactly what and how and when. When you're looking at it from a server perspective, you know, the big picture, let's say, you got a little bit of everything being fixed. New ability system, new test server, less bugs, better scenario queuing, new scenarios, improved cities, RVR changes, better dungeons, faster hammer, and better technology to utilize everything. I'm going to leave it at this point. Focus on the positives, and let's hope the game is going to be here for at least another 8-9 years with a better experience for everybody. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, guys, help the channel grow, because the more we grow, the more videos we can do, the more information we can bring out to you. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next video.